Treat yourself. Sounds like
Date
it's your
yourself.
Valentine's Day.
Date yourself. It's 2020.
That's
Date
right.
yourself. Why not?
Absolutely.
You know, in that sense, I've been ahead of the curve for years.
Welcome to Regarding. We're two POC talking about theater in NYC. My name is Maria Paz Alegre. I'm an artist and a theater critic.
Yo, my name is Rei Yamanuchi. I am a playwright.
Our guest today is a theater maker whose work has been performed at many notable theaters, including The Public, Ars Nova, Soho Rep, The Bushwick Star. Their play Suicide Forest returns this month to ART New York. Haruna Lee, welcome to Regarding.
Woo!
Thank
Thank you for being here. Your play Suicide Forest is an exploration of isolation, sex, identity through a middle-aged salaryman and a high school girl in post-bubble Japan. What specifically about the setting, the Aokigahara, the Suicide Forest, and 90s Japan is important to the play?
So, actually, the inspiration for that came from Audrey and Kennedy's play, Funny House of a Negro. And in that play, Kennedy taps into this dark, black femme psychic space. And so my inspiration for Suicide Forest was, or the seed for it was, what would a dark Japanese psychic inner landscape look like for me? And as I was looking into these different locations, I came across Aokigahara, or Suicide Forest, and I was just so immediately drawn to it, and I felt an affinity to that dark space, like a forest, the natural world, and a place where my people, Japanese people, go to erase themselves. And so then it really got me thinking about self-erasure and the ways in which Japanese culture and society promotes that as a way of being and living, and how that has been something I've carried with me as an immigrant to the US, and now as an Asian American identifying person, how do I self-erase myself here? And so in that sense, the forest was, this, I mean, people talk about that forest as such a dark place, but I also wanted to know what it would mean for that forest, a dark place, to be a place of possibility as well. And so in the play, I confront my mother in the forest, and is the place where we finally are able to have some kind of real conversation with each other.
Why like the 90s though? Because I also feel like, why not today, for example?
Yeah, the 90s part is because I grew up in Japan
Got it.
in the 80s and 90s.
I see.
So I really wanted to stay true to the Japan that I grew up with and knew, and felt uncomfortable trying to tap into the political sphere.
So speaking of confronting your mother in a Suicide Forest, you frequently perform your own work, and for Suicide Forest, your actual mother performs in the play with you. Yep. What is that like, having such proximity to your work, and does it, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, my mother and I, so she is Japanese and speaks mostly Japanese and very little English, and that has not changed after 30 years of living in this country. And I speak mostly English, and my Japanese is like at like a fifth grader's level, and that's how we communicate. But I mean, being 34 and for being with my mother for 34 years and only being able to communicate with her at that level is really hard. It's been hard. And something this play has given us, this gift that this play has given us, is to be surrounded by this Japanese heritage cast who can hold that awkwardness and the I mean, wrapped up in that is definitely pain and some intergenerational stuff. But to have people there who can readily translate conversations, to have both Japanese and English flying all the time. Like growing up with my mom, you know, it was mostly her not understanding what's going on and me translating that. But to create a room where she gets to understand most of what's happening, and even I have to kind of take a step back and ask for help. It's just a beautiful kind of switch of that relationship. And so, yeah, that, so yes, I don't know if I answered the question, but proximity, I don't know if I register that amount of distance anymore, honestly, as an artist. I'm like, right, proximity, but is that distance? Did I do that? Have I created? Yes, I have. Yeah. But it's almost like I feel like I don't have a choice right now, or like that's what I'm being called into, and it's to kind of create these kinds of spaces, and I guess with my mom right now.
That's amazing.
Lightning round! Woohoo! So this is a new segment that we have.
Oh my god, that's terrifying. I need a drink for this.
All right, here we go.
All right, you ready?
Thank you, yeah.
All right. Favorite TV show?
Succession.
Favorite book?
Emergent Strategy.
Favorite theater critic?
No one.
Oh! Ouch. Do you read reviews of your own show?
After the show is over.
Okay.
Underrated playwright?
There are too many. There's so many. Many.
Okay, overrated playwright.
Get messy.
Put this in here.
Put that in there.
Is that a pass?
Yeah, pass.
Okay, a play you wish you had seen.
Oh, the Mary Sequels.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Play that you wish you wrote.
A play about my Taiwanese father.
A play you would like revived.
I don't know why this has come. The Fantastics. It just came out.
Time.
Did not see that one coming.
Because I think we've talked about like childhood shows, and I was in that show.
Try to remember.
And have all those memories. Yeah, but like I would love to see a very fucked up version.
Yeah, that would be kind of hilarious. Yeah.
Somebody deconstruct.
In my head, I'm seeing like
I would generally describe your style as downtown or unorthodox compared to like what we typically see in the mainstream theater. What was it that drew you to theater, and what are some inspirations for your work?
Yeah, so my first interaction with theater was in the 5th grade. And I grew up in Washington State on this island called Mercer Island, and they did this musical. They made up a musical called Lewis and Clark's Adventure, which was about the Louisiana Purchase. And I auditioned for Sacagawea, the indigenous role. You know, I grew up on like waspy, very white island, and I was like, oh, I am a shoo-in. I will be Sacagawea. And then the cast list came out, and they cast me as Lewis. And playing that role, I was like, I can have this much individuality and power as a white man on stage.
I feel this all the time.
It's like, it was so addicting, and that was like the entry point in, which is so ridiculous.
That's so funny. I feel like there's so many people who get into theater at such a young age always have that problematic, you know what I mean? Yeah. What are some of your inspirations that...
We were talking about Kurosawa earlier.
Yes.
I would say like the mythos of Kurosawa's dreams, also like Alejandro Jodorowsky's Holy Mountain, like the absolute nonsense of and visuals of that movie, and then like Karen Walker, who is a visual artist, and she like those giant statues that are hyper-sexualized and hyper-racialized, like really speaks to me. And then, like in terms of writing, I think like Maggie Nelson and Claudia Rankine's like autotheoretical texts, where they kind of like write about themselves, but they're also theorizing at the same time.
So you describe your artistic practice as rooted in liberation-based healing, and you make it a point to have ethical collaborations with other artists. Can you describe for us what that means and how it informs the work that you make?
Yeah, I want to tell a little story.
Yes,
about
do
that.
it. This is the perfect place to do it.
Yeah. So I've been really lucky to cross paths with some really dope, radical artists, and they taught me that making art is not just about the content, what you make, but also how you embody and practice it. And with them, through them, what they taught me was like the ability to kind of go deeper into my hard edges, to take a look at my own trauma, my pain, discomforts, kinks, those kinds of darker spaces. But simultaneously, they also taught me to center my pleasure and my joy and like the power of the erotic and eros. And all of that being a way to honor myself as an artist. And as I started doing that, I felt more and more free and more myself, more liberated. But then I had this conversation with another amazing artist, Orion Johnstone, who is a theater maker and also a sex and relationship coach. And
I know
Orion,
them work,
they are amazing. And they said to me, my liberation is bound to your liberation. And that was like this huge aha moment for me, because I was experiencing my own liberation by myself, and that was fine, but then to have to think of how my liberation is interconnected and relational to everybody else. So I am not free unless everybody is free. And when that resonated with me, I think that's when my arts activism was born. And so now in my process, I really center that kind of community building, community organizing, and also just straight up anti-oppression work.
So we're coming to the end of our interview. I know, having seen your work previously, I know you engage the audience pretty personally, pretty directly. And so we're hoping that today you can give it straight to the camera, to all the people out there, reach through the camera, hopefully to our younger audience, aspiring artists out there who want to come up and maybe do something similar to what you're doing. Give them some advice.
My advice for you is to find that spot in yourself where you can deeply listen to what it is you want to embody, and to care for that space, and to know that that space is absolutely interconnected and relational to everybody else's spaces that they are caring for. Make space for difference, understand your own social positioning, where you are coming from, your culture, your history, your identity. Be proud, honor yourself, honor your ancestry, and honor others on this path.
Yes!
That was Crushed it. You crushed
That was
it.
so good.
Suicide Forest is at ART New York beginning February 25th until March 22nd. Tickets can be found at mayetheater.org. You can also purchase the script at 53rdstatepress.org or any bookseller where plays are sold. Haruna, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so
so
much.
Thank you.
Gift.
Like and subscribe. You know you want to.
Right there.
Just do it. It's
feels
somewhere.
good.
It's somewhere over here. You know what to do.
Crush that likes button. Likes button.
Other violent terms.